Welcome, everyone, to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Medicinal Plants for Protecting Your Body, Mind, and Spirit. The 7-week journey to create your own herbal home pharmacy for optimal health, positive emotions, and spiritual well-being. I'm Lisa Bonise, and I'll be hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of David Crow and address questions about his upcoming 7-week course, Medicinal Plants for Protecting Your Body, Mind, and Spirit, which begins Wednesday, April 24th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate in this course, even if you can't attend the live sessions. But first, I want to introduce our guest. David Crow is one of the world's foremost experts and leading speakers in the field of botanical medicine and grassroots healthcare. He's a master herbalist, aromatherapist, and acupuncturist with over 30 years of experience, and he's an expert in the Ayurvedic and Chinese medical systems. David has presented his vision of grassroots healthcare, preservation of botanical medicines, and the use of plants for ecological restoration to hundreds of audiences, ranging from small private groups to conferences and lecture halls to a panel discussion with the Dalai Lama, broadcast internationally to millions of viewers. His book, In Search of the Medicine Buddha, has been translated into 3 foreign editions. And in a little while, we're going to take questions, but first I want to bring David onto the line. Welcome, David. How are you today?
Thank you, Lisa. Always nice to be here, and I'm quite well.
That's awesome to hear. We've already got a ton of questions waiting for David. If you've got a question about the course, go ahead and type it in, and I'll pass it on. And in the meantime, I'm just going to let David run loose with some questions that have already been submitted. Go ahead, David. Let's get rolling.
Okay, great. Yes. First, thank you to everybody for joining us in this very brief presentation and for submitting so many questions so far. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more coming in. And when I say submitting a lot of questions, I mean hundreds and hundreds of questions have come in. So thank you. Now, one of the ways that I always approach these presentations, since so many people have so many questions, is that I put questions into groups. And that way I can answer a lot of questions all at once that are similar in nature. Now, one of the things that always happens with these calls is that people have very complex health conditions that are very chronic, and people are not getting the kind of help that they need from allopathic medicine or from local herbalists. And many people are sending in questions from all over the world, actually, from many countries. A lot of people are asking questions about where they can get herbs. And a lot of people are asking questions about health concerns that are really beyond the scope of this call. But I would like to address your questions in general as much as possible. I've looked through all of the questions so far, and I have organized them. And I would like to answer even the challenging questions about the challenging conditions as much as possible. So one of the things that we can start with is to understand the role of herbal medicine when it comes to these complicated health conditions. And I'm talking about conditions of advanced neurodegeneration. People are asking about Alzheimer's. People are asking about memory loss and dementia. People are asking about Lyme's disease, and people are asking about cancers. So it's not realistic or even ethical for me to start off by saying, well, if you take this herb, it's going to take care of that. So my role here is really to give you a bigger context of what herbal medicine can be expected to do. Now, a lot of people are also asking about, where do I get these herbs? And I'm using this herb and it's not working, and so forth. So let's put herbal medicine in the proper context first. Okay, so if you have access to good herbal medicine, and I can say basically that people in North America, in the US and Canada, people in Australia, and people in Europe, the people who are on the call from those parts of the world, you should not have any trouble finding high quality herbal products. Now, a lot of people also are asking, where do we get herbs here in Africa or here in India or here in Asia? And I don't really know. I can't give you any references for places specifically, but what I can tell you is that all of these regions where you have sent in your questions from all have traditional indigenous medical systems, and they all have herbs that have been used for a very long time. And there are, to different degrees, depending on where you are, some forms of folk medicine and simple remedies that are available. So that's the best I can offer in terms of those kinds of questions. Now, what about some of the more complicated health concerns? The answer that I can give you now, and we will delve into some of these questions. This is going to be very information rich. Today, I'm going to give you a lot of herbs, so have your notebook ready. And at the same time, I also don't want to make any kind of unrealistic claims about, well, since you are going through chemotherapy and radiation, you should take this herb. This is a different level of herbal medicine. This is the level where you should be working with a trained clinician. And what I can say to all of you who wrote these questions about your very challenging health concerns, I can say without a doubt that herbal medicine can help you tremendously. But a lot of these questions are really at a higher level of clinical practice as opposed to a simple question and answer session like this. However, I am going to answer a lot of these questions in kind of a general way, because these are also questions that are related to our course. Now, the course that we are presenting is about using medicinal plants for protecting ourselves. And that means that there's a lot of uses for preventive purposes. So that's one of the main distinguishing points that we have to make about the level of information that I'm teaching in this course and a lot of the questions that are coming in. We would like to use herbs preventively to protect ourselves, but that doesn't mean that they don't work for complicated situations. It just means that it's easier to use herbs on an ongoing basis to protect ourselves and to prevent conditions than it is to use them in a more advanced clinical situation. And in a more advanced, complicated situation where you have a changeable situation, like, for example, many questions came in about Lyme's disease. Lyme's disease is very, very individual in how it manifests in different stages according to how long the person's had it and the co-infections and their immune system and the level of inflammation and the medications and so forth. It's very complicated. It's not realistic to just say, okay, take this herb. But the positive news is that if you can find a trained clinician to work with, that you can put together a very comprehensive herbal program that is going to give you a lot of benefit. And a lot of people are benefited tremendously by using herbal medicine. So it's not just for prevention, it's also really for treatment of complicated situations as well, and recovery from complicated situations as well. But the level that we're talking about here, it really requires a consultation. I need to know a lot more about your health history and so forth. So I'll do the best that I can, answer the questions in kind of a general way, but I have also picked out a number of questions here that will get us started on the main topic, which is prevention. So here's one that came in. And a lot of people asked about situations where they are exposed to various toxins in the home and the environment. And this is a perfect question that's right in line with the nature of this course. And closely related to that, several people asked about the safety of using herbs from different environments. And this is also something that is very important to consider. And then we also have a third closely related question, which is that people want to know about what herbs they can grow in their particular region. So let's go ahead and take this one question that came in here. And it's a very challenging question here. I have an aluminum factory 50 meters from my house and garden. Depending on the wind, the fumes and particulates have a very negative smell and toxicity when in the atmosphere. And I'm concerned about the effect on our health and in growing of the vegetables and plants in the garden. What type of medicinal plant would help with eradicating this toxicity from the body? Well, there's a couple of different questions here, and there's obviously a very challenging situation. And first of all, I'm very sorry to hear about this exposure. But, you know, a lot of people all over the world have exposure to industrial waste, agriculture, all kinds of things. And so this is a very important question and very, very relevant. So the first thing that I would say in these kind of situations is that we have to change our view about how we use herbs. So you are asking what medicinal plant, what type of medicinal plant to eradicate the toxicity from the body. And I will answer that. But first, I want to say that there's another use of herbs that's even more important to start with, and that is herbs for environmental protection. So first of all, what I would say is don't eat vegetables from your garden. I'm sorry to say that, but if you can smell the metal toxins coming from the factory, you shouldn't be eating anything from there. So what can you do? Well, what you can do is actually very traditional, and that is that you can use plants to create a physical barrier. And you can use plants to help detoxify the elements around the home. So one possible way that you could do this, just as a little gardening idea, is that you can have trellises around the house that have climbing vines. And what that will do is it will actually create a physical barrier. And then you can also put trees, as many trees as you can around the house. It will take some time, but they'll come up. And the more we can surround ourselves with plants, the more the plants are going to be detoxifying the environment at that particular level. They will be helping to protect us at that level. And this is traditional because in a lot of places in the world, for example, where there are a lot of mosquitoes, people would plant a lot of aromatic herbs around their homes. And the plants would emit fragrance that the mosquitoes don't like. So it's environmental remediation, environmental protection type of approach. So that's one concept that you could start with. I would not advise that you eat anything from your garden because the plants are going to concentrate the toxins. And that's why the second part of this question is, what about the safety of using herbs from different environments? Well, it's a real concern. We have to use herbs from a healthy environment. So don't eat the plants from the garden if you can smell the metal. And so now let's talk about metal toxicity. And several people have asked about this, and it is one of the subjects in the course. How do we protect ourselves from metal toxicity? And that basically means that first we take care of the environment around the home. And another point that I will mention is that we can also do this in the home as well. And in a lot of places, indoor pollution is actually worse than outdoor pollution. So plants can help us in terms of remediation by having, especially the large leaf types of plants, by having those in the environment, in the home. That can actually purify the home. And so I would say start with those two things, externally and in the house. And now to get to your specific question and to several other people's questions about this as well. So first of all, there is relatively little that is known about specific remedies of this herb will detoxify this metal from this tissue. Now, there is quite a bit known about certain categories of herbs that can be used for detoxifying heavy metals if they are coming in from the food chain specifically, because those can be drawn out of the body by taking certain herbs like the bitter cholagogic stimulant herbs that stimulate the flow of bile. Those are the hepatoprotective herbs, the herbs that protect the liver and stimulate the bile flow. Those herbs are going to be covered in this course as part of protecting our liver, but they can be used as long as the metals have not migrated into the deeper tissues. Now, this is a very complicated subject because the metals will migrate to different organs and tissues according to individual metals. It's quite diverse, actually. So some metals have an affinity to the marrow, and some have an affinity to the gonads, and some have an affinity to the brain, and some to breast tissue, and some to prostate, and so forth. So we can't really say, well, this herb will take it out. Now, of course, there are claims that are made on the internet about this particular product will chelate heavy metals. I think it's highly questionable. What I do know is that if we take certain things while the metals are still in the GI tract, they can be cleansed out. That is scientifically known. And that has been done actually on a fairly large scale in places, for example, around Chernobyl. They did a lot of detoxification of the population after the radionuclides got in the environment, and those are heavy metals. But they were giving things at the time when the metals had not yet become lodged in the tissues. So what are some of those things that you're going to hear about? Well, obviously, you've probably heard of cilantro. I think that it's in the general category of greens in general. I don't think that cilantro really has that much scientific evidence backing it up, especially when we look at the specific types of metals and the places where they accumulate. So all the greens will have a benefit. And so dark green leafy vegetables and green juices and chlorella and spirulina, these do have some known cleansing actions. And again, especially working on the liver to stimulate the breakdown of the toxins as they are passing through the digestive tract. So those are a few ideas. And then seaweeds are another. And another one is pectin. So these are a few things that have been used for detoxifying heavy metals. I hope that was helpful. Now, in the broader context, what we can say is that herbal medicine can protect every organ system, and that's what the course will present. It will present herbs that protect the brain, and herbs that protect the GI tract, and herbs that will protect the heart and cardiovascular system and the musculoskeletal system. The more that we are using herbal medicine to protect ourselves on all levels, the less impact that toxins are going to have in general, of all types of toxins. And so that's one of the principles here. When people ask these very specific questions about specific types of toxins, we know some information, and there's a lot we don't know, but what we can say is that using herbal medicine will protect us. And so even if we don't know what to do, there's a lot we can do. So turmeric, for example, everybody knows about turmeric. Everybody knows that it is neuroprotective, it's hepatoprotective, and it's anti-inflammatory. We need those 2 or 3 basic functions to help us with all types of toxicity. So turmeric also helps to increase the bile flow through the liver. So that's a specific answer to your question also. All right, I hope that was helpful. Closely related to that question, can planes overhead deposit lead, toxins, and exhaust on my dried organic dandelion leaves to my detriment? I am near the airport. Yes, of course. And it sounds like you have a dandelion farm where you are. But the seriousness will depend on the size of the airport and how close you are. So if you're a few miles away from a small airport, it's probably not a big deal. But if you're right next door to a large airport, you have many exposures to many types of toxins. And yes, the exhaust and some degree of heavy metals, I'm sure, are going to be in your environment. And so I would also answer the same way I did about the exposure to the aluminum, which is do your best to create a green environment around you. You know that a lot of phytoremediation projects are being done and proposed for large scale remediation of environmental toxicity. And basically, what it's doing is it's using plants to detoxify the environment. And that's what they do. The fungi detoxify the soil, the trees detoxify the soil and the atmosphere. So the plants are always doing this in the environment. And when we use the herbal medicine, they're doing that inside the environment of the body as well. So let's look at another aspect of this. What about the herbs accumulating toxicity in the environment, from the environment, and how do we know about the safety of the herbs? This is a very good question because obviously, if we want to detoxify ourselves, then we want to stay away from herbs that have high levels of toxins in them. So one of the things that I've already mentioned is using seaweed for chelating heavy metals. But seaweed can, depending on where it comes from, can have a very high level of toxicity itself. So what do we do about it? Well, this is where we have to know our sources. And fortunately, there are still many parts of the world where high quality botanical ingredients are being produced and harvested that are very clean. And there's a lot of people now who are involved in a lot of projects around the world to produce botanical medicines, because botanical medicines are really emerging as an incredible resource that humanity needs. You know, all of our interest in herbal medicine is creating a big downstream effect of making it financially possible to do large-scale agroforestry projects and so forth. And this is actually creating a lot of new sources of very high-quality, ecologically harvested and organically produced products. So I give extensive sources in the course that I'll be offering. And these are companies that are very actively involved in not only producing the medicine certified organic and so forth, but also whenever companies are doing this, it's always linked to other social causes, sustainability, fair trade, fair wages, and so forth. So that's also something that we need to consider. And I will introduce you to some very good sources. So another thing here, growing your own. Where can I get the best quality? So it's very important actually to grow our own. And I would say that if you can grow your own, it's going to be very high quality. It's going to be the best if you can get it from a clean environment. So if you have a clean environment, if you live in a relatively clean region and you want to grow your own herbs, then take it to the next level. And I will give you some sources in the course also. But I'll also mention that there are many sources available online for high quality herb seeds from all over the world, actually. I'll give you a link. One of my favorite places, strictlymedicinalseeds.com, strictlymedicinalseeds.com. All right. Another big question that people asked about, a lot of people asked about cannabis. And here's a good typical question here. My husband and I are using CBD topically and would like to know of any analgesic plants we could use in combination topically as well. Thank you so much for all the wonderful, insightful information. I already have many of the plants you speak of in my garden collection. Great, wonderful. So first of all, cannabis is not preventive. So it's not really a major topic in this course. It's curative, okay? And it is very narrow range also in the sense that we have to understand what the best strain is, the best preparation, and the best dose and the frequency and so forth, because cannabis is very strong. And the way that it treats conditions is very individual. So it really requires clinical level of knowledge. about how to use different types of cannabis in different ways. So CBD is different. And CBD, of course, is very widespread. It's legal, it's easily available. But there's a problem with CBD. And the problem with CBD is that almost all of the products that are tested have no CBD in them. It's a total scam. And it's a really serious quality control issue. So I hate to tell you that bad news, but when you can get true CBD, it really is very effective, and it's also very expensive. So that's one of the ways you can tell, is that CBD products that are really good are quite expensive. Now, you're asking about pain and inflammation. You're asking about topical uses of analgesic plants. All right. So I'm going to give you some specific information here. And I'm assuming that you are talking about pain and inflammation in the musculoskeletal system of some type. So I'm going to give you some breakdowns here because a lot of people asked about this. And there's a lot of herbs that we can use in a lot of different ways. We can use herbs for soft tissue injuries and sprains and strains and whiplash. And we can use herbs for relaxing muscle spasms. And we can use herbs for arthritic pain. And we can use herbs for fibromyalgia. And a lot of these herbs actually cross over into all the categories. There are some major herbs that are in all the categories. But if I cover these herbs, that will answer many of the questions that came in from many people. So let's talk about a few of the most important ones. And I'll just mention here that analgesic herbs, and that includes things that are taken internally and externally, analgesic herbs work differently than over-the-counter analgesics. They are much milder, and they're much less toxic, and they're a lot safer, but they work more slowly. Okay, they work more at the root of the problem. So let's look here at a couple of things for soft tissue injuries, sprains and strains, and whiplash. Okay, so first of all, ginger tea, strong ginger tea, should always be a base for any kind of musculoskeletal pain. And then you can add different tinctures to that. And one of the tinctures that I like to use for musculoskeletal pain, especially in the upper body, this is wood betony tincture. Wood betony tincture is one of the best for tight muscles of the neck and shoulders and headaches and so forth. And take that with strong ginger tea. Now, ginger tea can be used in the bath also. And one of the ways you can do it is you can take a tablespoon or two of ginger powder and mix it around in a bath and soak in that. A lot of the herbs are actually used in the bath form for musculoskeletal conditions, and I'll mention a few. Another thing that's very helpful for musculoskeletal conditions is if you use some of the herbal infused oils. Calendula oil, St. John's wort, and arnica are three of the most important and widely used herbal macerated oils in the Western tradition. And then what you can do is you can add my favorite number one anti-inflammatory wound healing oil, which is the essential oil of helichrysum. So if you get that herbal macerated oil, St. John's wort, arnica, and calendula, and you put in, say, 5 drops of essential oil of helichrysum per tablespoon, you could apply that topically. The black pepper essential oil is also very good in that kind of macerated herbal oil as well. I'll mention a few other herbs here that are very good as tea. Meadow sweet, taken as tea. Lavender flowers. Another tincture that's very good for musculoskeletal pain is cramp bark. And also a very specific herb for elderly people who have musculoskeletal pain that disturbs their sleep is going to be the Jamaican dogwood. Okay, now this is an herb you should not just take randomly. This is something you need to take it on a smaller doses for shorter periods of time, but it is a specific herb for that purpose, and it can be very effective, but it can also disturb your stomach if you take too much. I will mention here one last thing, which is the use of Ayurvedic herbal oils. There's a lot of herbal oils that are used in Ayurveda, and one of the most famous is called Mahanarayan oil. It's easily available through the Ayurvedic sources, and you can add essential oils to that. So let's say a tablespoon of the Mahanarayan oil, and for every tablespoon, you can add 5 drops of an essential oil. And a few of the essential oils that I would recommend would be the black pepper, or you could add 1 or 2 drops of ginger essential oil, or you could add some of the flower oils like lavender, and they're going to basically cool inflammation. So there's a lot of different choices. There are so many kinds of medicated herbal oils and so many kinds of essential oils, and many, many things can be used for external application. Okay, so that will get us off to a running start here, because there's so many other things. Yeah, there's so many other things, but I'll just go ahead and turn it back to you, Lisa, for a quick check-in, and then we'll just continue on, since I know that there's so many people that have more questions along these lines.
Okay, sounds great. For those of you who are just joining us, we're here with David Crow, learning about his upcoming course. Again, that's called Medicinal Plants for Protecting Your Body, Mind, and Spirit, and it begins Wednesday, April 24th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 7-week course, you can visit plantsforprotecting.com. You see it down there at the bottom of your screen. And that's where you'll see the full description of the course and where you can also register. And we have plenty of time for more questions. But before we take those, I want to give just a few details about the course itself, because Dave is just so full of amazing information. I hope you're taking notes. Again, it's called Medicinal Plants for Protecting Your Body, Mind, and Spirit. And this is going to be just an information-packed 7-week journey under David's obviously expert guidance, where you'll discover the right herbs and dosages to help heal and harmonize your mind-body, guided by a world-renowned botanical medicine expert. The 7-week course takes place on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. Again, that's starting Wednesday, April 24th. And if you can't join us live, that's fine. You will not miss the teachings. You will receive recordings of all of the classes, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage, which you can download and keep forever. Also, I'd like to remind you that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you until May 8th in this case to make sure it's a good fit. We want you to be happy. Also, as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can stay connected with one another. Also, everyone who registers receives the Medicinal Plants for Protecting Your Body, Mind, and Spirit bonus collection. First, you receive the Plant Medicine Summit Sampler, and that's a set of audio dialogues from the Plant Medicine Summit archives. Then you'll get selected audio teachings from the Medicinal Plants and Spiritual Evolution Retreat entitled Secrets of the Medicine Buddha. Next, you'll receive an audio recording from David called The Feast of Nectars, Elixirs for Rejuvenation. And you'll also receive a 20% discount from David's Floricopia online store. And when you register by tonight, Thursday, April 18th, by midnight Pacific, you'll receive an extra gift, and that is an entire audio course from David Crow. That one's called The Healing Power of Plants and Biological Unity. So, David, before we get back into the questions, you want to tell us what you're most looking forward to sharing in this specific upcoming course?
Sure, of course. I am most interested in sharing how plants can protect us and how they can benefit us. This is very important information, actually. We need plants more than ever. We need plants in the environment for detoxifying the environment. We need plants for a healthy diet. We need healthy plants for a healthy diet, which means we need healthy agriculture, and we need healthy medicine. And the healthiest form of medicine is plant-based medicine. And of course, if we use that preventively, then we're going to be able to stay out of more toxic, aggressive, invasive forms of medicine as well. So this is extremely important information. And in a certain way, it's new because it's coming out in this sort of herbal renaissance, I guess we could say, over the last few decades. There's been tremendous interest in this. But this is actually humanity's oldest form of medicine. So I find great personal satisfaction and personal meaning and fulfillment in sharing this information with people, because I know that it really works. I teach a lot of courses. I've done 30 years of clinical practice, and I know from the feedback and seeing the results that the plants can help us tremendously on many levels. And as I mentioned at the beginning, even if you have a complex health challenge and there is not one specific herb that's going to just totally take care of it, herbal medicine as part of a comprehensive program is going to help you tremendously. So that's what I always look forward to, Lisa. It's always the same answer. It's just the opportunity to share this with people. And for that reason, I'm always grateful for the Shift Network giving me that opportunity and for people's interest. And I know that there's a large group of people in this audience, and I'm always very appreciative because that tells me that people want answers. They want information about something healthy. And in a simple way, natural medicine is connecting us back to nature. When we use herbal medicine, we're actually consuming very ancient intelligence that is in the plants. We are eating medicine that is literally millions of years old, that has been there forever. And it has tremendous, deep benefits for our body. So that's what I always enjoy about presenting this information. And thank you again for asking.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all of this information that you've been sharing. Once again, the website is plantsforprotecting.com. And like I said, we've got plenty of time for more questions. So, David, if you want to go ahead and dive back in, take it away. Okay.
And I see we have some interesting, unexpected lighting effects. You can actually see my chakra lighting up if I put my head in the right place there. Okay, so let's continue on with some of the herbs for pain. And there was a specific question here: what types of plants or essential oils can be used to help treat fibromyalgia? Well, there's a lot of herbs that can be used actually on an individual basis. And again, this is something where the more we combine different species of herbs, the better the results are going to be. And the more we combine different types of treatments and therapies also. So let's just start with one of the very simple examples, and that is a single herb. If there was going to be one single herb that is going to be the most important for a person with fibromyalgia, it would be kava kava. Now, you must learn how to use kava carefully because there are many different strains, many different preparations of it, and you can end up taking too much. But if you are fortunate to have a kava bar that has opened in your neighborhood recently, and there are many kava bars coming now in the United States, if you are fortunate to have access to a kava bar, just go and have a coconut shell of kava drink, and it will relax your musculoskeletal system very nicely. So kava is one of the primary herbs for fibromyalgia. And another one is ashwagandha. And ashwagandha also is very related to one of the questions that was asked about the musculoskeletal system, which was, what herb will help me strengthen my muscles and what herb will build muscle tissue? Ashwagandha is the number one herb for that. But of course, then you also have to look at the diet. You have to look at a lot of factors. How old are you? Why are your muscles weak? Do you get exercise? How's your digestive system? Are you on medications? All of these things have to be known before I can give you more specific information. Now, one of the things that's very important for both the fibromyalgia question and the musculoskeletal system in general is that a lot of times the best use of the herb is externally. And so I've given you some ideas about herbal oils, mixing them with essential oils, and I'll also mention here herbal baths. And I gave one suggestion, ginger powder in a bath. That's a good place to start, but I'll also mention that two herbs that are common culinary herbs actually have a very pronounced effect on relieving musculoskeletal pain, inflammation, and tension if you put them in a bath. And that is oregano and or marjoram. And marjoram is very specific to musculoskeletal pain. So somebody was asking about what are some of the best essential oils to have in the home pharmacy. I will give you a list and I'll start with that. Marjoram is one of the best to have for the musculoskeletal system. And again, if you have a herbal carrier oil or even just a regular carrier oil, just plain sesame, for example, 1 tablespoon, 1 or 2 drops of marjoram oil, massage it on the sore muscles and joints. Or what you can do is you can take 4 cups of dry marjoram herb and put it in a cheesecloth, and you can soak that like a giant tea bag in a tub of hot water. Just make that nice and aromatic, and then soak in marjoram tea. That's a very nice way to treat fibromyalgia, and that's a very nice way to treat musculoskeletal conditions in general. So many herbs can be used that way, actually. A lot of the aromatic herbs can be done that way. So for fibromyalgia, pain in general, tension in general, we also want to think about 2 other herbs, skullcap and motherwort. And these are antispasmodic herbs. These are very nice for all types of musculoskeletal pain where there's tightness and contraction. And then we also think of tincture of cramp bark. And that's easy to remember because wherever there's that tension and cramping, that's good. California poppy. Tincture of California poppy is also a major one for fibromyalgia and for all types of musculoskeletal pain. All right, let's move on now to another system. And then, Lisa, I will come back to you in just a few minutes here. Here's a good question, actually, that covers a lot of things. Does your course cover what herbs and essential oils are beneficial for addiction? I work in a treatment center as a massage therapist and would love to use oils and suggest herbs for the clients who are undergoing treatment. Thank you. Excellent question. Now, the answer is yes. The course does cover herbs that are going to be beneficial for addiction. Why? Because every module covers the protection of a different system. And all systems are involved in addiction. And therefore, protecting all systems are going to be beneficial for treating addiction. Let's just go through a few examples here. Respiratory system. Treating the respiratory system is going to have a detoxifying effect on the lungs, which is going to help with addiction in general, but specifically for different kinds of smoking, for cannabis addiction and smoking and nicotine. For protecting the liver, that's going to be for every type of addiction, for alcoholism and for any type of drug use. It's going to be helpful for helping recovery from opioid addiction and so forth. Taking care of the liver is fundamental. Taking care of the digestive tract is fundamental for detoxification. So anytime we are using herbs to protect a system, we are generally doing 2 different things simultaneously. One is we are boosting the functionality of that system, strengthening and nourishing it. And the second is that we are helping it with its natural process of detoxification. Anything that does those 2 processes will be helpful for treating addictions. But I'll just give you a list here of some of the herbs that we're going to find in the course and some of the things that you will be able to mention. Obviously, I said the liver and the lungs, anything that's good for that, anything that supports healthy digestive function. But there's also a specific class of herbs, and those are the nervine relaxant herbs. And so a few of the nervine relaxant herbs, I'll just give you a few ideas here. These treat a wide variety of conditions: insomnia, irritability. These are used extensively for helping people to go through the detoxification process. Once they have stopped, there's always a period of time where the nervous system is really agitated and aggravated. And these herbs can be very helpful. And some of these are very safe, mild, easily accessible. Lemon balm, very nice. And the lemon balm essential oil also. Skullcap herb again, antispasmodic. Tulsi tea, very calming and relaxing for the nervous system. And here's a specific herb known to herbalists, which a lot of people don't know about, which is specific for the withdrawal symptoms of various addictions. blue vervain tincture. Very anti-anxiety and antidepressant type of herb. Now, the essential oils, wide range of essential oils can be very beneficial, but I'll simplify it. The flower essential oils are going to be the ones that are used the most. And those are going to be things like lavender and geranium and rose and ylang ylang and neroli orange blossom. All of those in a massage oil, in a massage, in the bath, in the diffuser, even just a couple drops on the palm and inhaled. All the flower essential oils are going to be very helpful for calming nervousness and irritability and the tension and tightness that comes from withdrawal symptoms from addiction. And of course, we also have chamomile, lavender as tea and essential oils. And we also have some of the famous herbs for anxiety and depression, with St. John's wort being probably at the top of that. But I'll also mention the California poppy again, strong sedative, and then a major herb for rejuvenating our system is the milky oat seed. And that's going to go into a lot of different applications. That's going to be for withdrawal symptoms. All people who are withdrawing from any kind of addiction, they should be on a daily program of taking the tincture of milky oat seed several times a day. And of course, if you are having problems with alcohol, don't use the alcohol tincture. You can use the non-alcohol tincture instead. Okay, I'm just getting warmed up, and of course, so much information already, and so many questions, so many excellent questions. But Lisa, I'm going to turn it back to you because I know you have a few more things to add here.
Yeah, I just want to give just a quick reminder. Once again, we're here with David Crow, learning about his upcoming course. Again, that's called Medicinal Plants for Protecting Your Body, Mind, and Spirit. And again, it begins Wednesday, April 24th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 7-week course, you can visit plantsforprotecting.com to see the full description and to register. And I just want to let everybody know I'm passing your questions on to David as we go. We've got a little more than 10 minutes left, so we've got time for a few more questions. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to you, David. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, here's another one that has come in. This is a very important topic. And the question is, I am a rheumatologist and often have patients with anxiety and insomnia. Which herbs are safe to give patients with autoimmune diseases not on immunosuppressants, and for also those patients on immunosuppressants? So thank you for submitting this question, and this is a very important question. The answer actually is relatively simple, and that is that there's only one herb that has received a lot of coverage as an immune stimulant that should be avoided, that is contraindicated in autoimmune conditions, and that is echinacea. Echinacea is a strong immunostimulant, and that's why it is taken in large doses for a short period of time at the onset of colds and flus. Basically, what it does is it kickstarts the white blood cells to become much more aggressive in their phagocytic activities. So echinacea is contraindicated in autoimmune disorders. And at the same time, it's not a dangerous herb. If people with an autoimmune disorder take it, many times they won't feel bad. Many times it won't do much of anything. But sometimes some patients are sensitive to it and it will worsen their symptoms. But that, of course, will stop as soon as they stop taking it. So it's not like a highly dangerous herb, but it is contraindicated. Now, there are a lot of other herbs that regulate the immune system and boost the immune system through other mechanisms that are often found used in treatment of autoimmune conditions. So here's another question along these lines. Are there any herbs and plants that we can take to help boost our immune system? This is a more common question. Your question is very specific and very clinical and very good, because I'm sure there are people listening who have this concern. Are there any herbs and plants that we can take to help boost our immune system? And what are some of these herbs and plants? And should we take them on a daily basis? Okay, so let's go back here to the bigger subject. of how do we actually help people with autoimmune conditions? Well, there's a lot of different approaches. And of course, anti-inflammatory herbs are going to be important. But I didn't answer your question, actually. What are some of the ways that you might be able to treat some of the autoimmune patients that you have to help them with anxiety and insomnia? Well, I'll give you a list here of some of the herbs that, as far as I know, these are totally safe for people with autoimmune conditions. Lavender, tea, and lavender essential oil, lemon balm, okay, passion flower as tea and as tincture, and valerian, and then milky oat also to build the adrenal system. It's a nutritive tonic for the adrenal system and a restorative for an exhausted nervous system. So these are a few things that are used for insomnia and anxiety widely that can be used very safely in autoimmune conditions. But to continue with my point about using things in a bigger context, we don't have to just use herbs internally either, because there's so many ways that we can apply them. And people who have autoimmune conditions, for example, an aromatherapy massage, you can put a very relaxing oil or a combination of oil, such as clary sage and lavender essential oils together in just a plain carrier oil like sesame or coconut. If you get a warm oil massage, Ayurvedic style, using a cup or two of warm oil all over you with those fragrances, it's extremely relaxing. And that itself can treat anxiety and insomnia without consuming any tea. Another thing that's widely used in Ayurvedic medicine that some people may know about, Shirodhara, the warm cascade, the cascade of warm oil over the forehead that goes over the head and the hair. After a warm oil massage, it is very, very deeply calming and sedative also. These kinds of treatments can be done instead of taking herbs if you have any concern about contraindications. Another one, I mentioned the herbal baths, of course, and you can use flowers very nicely. You can use flowers themselves, or you can use maybe 5 drops per bath of a flower oil. And then another very important Ayurvedic treatment, which there are now some good products that are available, and that is Nasya. That is Nasya, Nasya. These are herbs that are cooked in a carrier oil that are applied to the nostrils, generally 1 or 2 drops in each nostril. Just inhale. You do it with your head tilted back. You inhale and massage it in and let it drain down into the throat, spit it out. A lot of research now is coming into this very traditional form of Ayurvedic medicine, because the carrier oil acts as a vehicle that transports the herbal medicines that have been cooked in it through the blood-brain barrier, because it's a lipid carrier. So this is another way that we can administer herbs that will not have this kind of immune stimulant action. Now let's look at a few things for the other side of the question here. What things can we take to boost our immune system, and how should we take them? Well, there's a lot of things. There's actually many, many herbs that are very good for our immune system, because our immune system is actually many things. So we can actually break it down, and we will break it down in the course, and we'll start talking about herbs that are going to boost the respiratory immune system. Herbs that are hepatoprotective also mean that they protect the immune system at the level of the liver, which means that it protects us from toxins and viruses and so forth. And things that protect the nerve tissue, neuroprotective, that will slow down the aging of the brain. All of these kinds of things also represent different levels of immune protection as well. So let's look at a few of the things just for basic immune protection, which most people will think of as respiratory. And that will be, again, echinacea, but that's an immune stimulant. That will be something you will take in a high dose several times a day for a few days only. Don't take it more than that. That's just to kickstart the immune system at the onset of a cold or a flu. Other things, if you have more of a depleted long-term weakness of the immune system at the respiratory level, one of the first things you think about is astragalus. And astragalus is widely available. It's a very mild herb, but it is highly, highly effective. It's actually like a deep, nutritive tonic that really builds the immune system from the core. So it helps to replenish, build up white blood cell levels. If they're low, rebuilds blood cells. It's one of the best herbs to take if a person has been through blood loss, women who have had a miscarriage, heavy bleeding. It's one of the herbs that's always used for people who are going through chemotherapy and radiation to keep their immune system strong. And then, of course, we have the medicinal mushrooms. Reishi mushroom is very, very important for boosting the immune system. A lot of the aromatic spices also have significant immune boosting powers. Ginger tea and tulsi tea and cinnamon cooked in our oatmeal and things like that. The aromatic spices, aromatic herbs for teas. Usually, we use a combination of these types of things. So we may take a dropper of reishi tincture in a cup of ginger tea, for example. Or we might cook the astragalus and then put the reishi tincture in that. Or we might like to take astragalus tea with a couple spoonfuls of elderberry syrup. These are a few very simple things. Now, this level is milder than echinacea, and it can be taken for a longer period of time. These types of herbs, medicinal mushrooms, astragalus, aromatic herbs and spices, these can be taken on a daily basis, actually, for many weeks quite safely. You can take them for many months also, but if you're going to take any herbs for many months, you should just get into a nice cycle where you take them maybe 3 or 4 times a week, not 3 or 4 times a day. And that's a very important principle. And there is a lot of confusion about this. So the way that we think about it is the more long-term the process is, just take the doses less frequently and spread it out. And that includes detoxification as well. A lot of people think they need to do something really dramatic with detoxification. I don't agree for the most part. My approach is take the herbs that support the natural detoxification processes of every organ on a gradual, gentle, long-term basis. In other words, don't force the body to have all kinds of cathartic flushing. We detoxify if we get good sleep. So therefore, take some herbs, get some good sleep. We detoxify. We detoxify when we have good digestion. Therefore, take some aromatic spices to help digest our food. That's detoxifying. Don't take a lot of things to flush the gallbladder out. It's not healthy. It's potentially dangerous. Just take a little bit of some of the digestive bitters a few times a week before meals, just to stimulate a little bit of bile flow like that. So that's a much more reasonable approach. And that way people can take things more safely because it is more gentle over a more long period of time, and it's supporting the natural processes of the body as opposed to forcing it to do something. So that's a little bit of philosophy about detoxification. And again, so many questions that we don't have time, but I hope that this was a good overview and introduction. We did cover quite a lot of herbs. So with that, Lisa, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right, great. Wow, this has just been an incredible hour. And I think this has been a perfect demonstration of your vast knowledge and the kinds of things that people will learn in the course. We're about out of time here. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your questions. I know David covered as many of them as he possibly could. Once again, it's called Medicinal Plants for Protecting Your Body, Mind, and Spirit, and it starts Wednesday, April 24th. And again, you can visit plantsforprotecting.com to learn more and to register. So in the last minute or so, David, do you have any final words?
Well, thank you to everybody. And thank you for sending in all these questions. I always wish that I had hours and hours to answer everybody's questions. I hope that I was able to give you some comprehensive information, something practical, and also some good larger concepts. And most importantly, thank you for your interest in this very important subject. And just in closing, I want to say that because there were so many people who asked so many genuine, sincere questions about complicated health conditions, I just want to leave you with that reminder that the answer is yes, that herbal medicine can help you tremendously. And so I would encourage you, even if you're not taking the course, to look for resources that you can connect with, especially trained, qualified practitioners. And keep in mind also that if you cannot find a person to work with on these complicated challenges, that doesn't mean that you can't make progress. It's just that it's difficult to do self-treatment and self-medication when it comes to herbs, because there's a lot of conflicting information and a lot of it is marketing based. So I would encourage you, of course, to take the course because there is a lot of very practical information, and that's a good place to start. But I would also like to put this in the bigger context and say, what are we really doing here? We're really learning something that used to be part of our collective heritage. It used to be part of humanity's collective knowledge about how to use the plants from our environment on a daily basis. And we have just become so separated from nature that we have lost fundamental information about how to take care of ourselves. And this takes time, but it's an extremely rewarding process to study herbal medicine a step at a time. And so I would encourage you to do that. For all of you who sent in these questions about these challenging health conditions that you have, study herbal medicine, not just this course. There are many courses available, many resources. Just keep learning, keep using herbs, slowly bring in one thing at a time. But before you start to take an herb, study it. Study and see if it has any contraindications, any herb-drug interactions. This is something that I will cover in detail in my course because I'm very aware that people are on medications. And some people are on a lot of medications and they want to get off. So bringing the herbs in should be done one herb at a time, slowly, smaller doses, see how it feels, study the herb. The more you learn about individual herbs, then you can start to combine them. And what I will say is the more you are using herbal medicine on a daily basis, just for basic preventive purposes, strengthening purposes, nutritive purposes, gentle detoxification purposes, the better your health will be. Even if you are treating a complex situation, the herbs will give your body concentrated nutrients, concentrated intelligence from nature that will help you. So herbal medicine is a very big subject. And thank you for joining us in this very, very brief introduction to it. I just encourage you, learn more, keep going forward with it. You will not regret it. You will get benefits from it. So Lisa, thank you again also for hosting the call.
All right. Beautifully stated. Thank you again, David. It's always a privilege and a pleasure speaking with you. And once again, I want to thank everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great night, everyone.